or was it a hybrid of both? And at the bottom of it all, what were Nigeria's gains from that? Now, our guest is Professor Babafemi Badejo. He's a legal practitioner and professor of political science and international relations at Chrisland University. Professor Badejo is also former Deputy Special Representative of the Secretary General of the United Nations for Somalia. Good morning to you, sir.
Very good morning to you, Mr. Folari.
Thank you very much, sir. Yori will do, sir. Thank you very much for making time for us.
Okay, good. Very good morning, Yori.
Thank you, sir.
You are my friend. So,
Thank you very much, sir. Now, there's been quite a lot of talk on this climate change conference, and well, it should be like that because it's a very, very important conference. So I guess what I would like to start with is to ask you for an overview of how you see, our participation in that conference. There have been all sorts of views, but let me take it from your point. And the question I asked, how much of a diplomatic outing was it, and how much of an environmental planetary sustenance outing was it?
Well, you have asked two major questions. Definitely a diplomatic outing, but at the same time, when you're looking at diplomatic outing, because it is good to try to raise our profile at the international level, which profile has been reasonably low. Every Nigerian citizen can attest to what you face trying to get visa or in relationships. I'm not talking about Japa. I'm talking about you're even wanting to go for business. You're wanting to. So a diplomatic effort in which we are showing up confidently at the international level is a very, very great benefit for us as a country, as a people. And who is best able to do that? Our chief diplomat, our president. So it was positive that he led a delegation to Dubai, which country was hosting COP28. Maybe it's important to actually tell your viewers, because people have been talking about COP. What does COP28 stand for? Conference of Parties. It is the Conference of Parties, COP, and it has been taking place annually, and this is the 28th one when it started annually. The idea of COP28 came out of the Art Summit that took place in Brazil in 1992, during which time the whole world came to the conclusion that we cannot continue the way we are doing in terms of the environment and the problems that we are bound to face if we continue the way we are doing because of the climatic situations that was gradually changing on all of us. So that led to the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. So, but the highest level of discussion, because discussions continue under the auspices of the UNFCCC regularly, and there are other bodies that have been set up and others are still being set up to practicalize the convention that was the outcome of the Rio Summit of 1992. So, in effect, our concern is one of how do we leave the world a better place for ourselves and for children yet unborn by reducing the warming of the global warming largely. And we've been on that for quite a while now. And we can talk about some of the substance of what's involved with respect to the global warming problem, which is facing different parts of the world differently, in which case we need to pay attention to the different interests that are involved when you're talking about climate change. But the whole focus is climate change. And I hope that with efforts like yours, it will be possible for our people at large to understand the importance of climate change and its impacts on all of us. When you are having flooding taking place, scientists are telling us that the problem of global warming and other associated problems that are changing the situation on our planet are affecting why we are having flooding, desertification, which are two crucial things affecting us, because much of our country is going into desertification. Efforts are being made by our government, by others in support of Africa, international financial institutions. Many efforts are going into all that. But flooding, take your mind to the flooding of last year.
Yeah.
The flooding of last year resulted in the deaths of about 600 Nigerians. More also crucial is the fact that much of the food that had been planted and were growing and to be harvested last year disappeared with the flood. Not countless animals disappeared with the flood. All those are reduction in the totality of what we have to eat with, to eat from as our produce. So if we have all this in mind, and that if we can reduce the rate of the warming of the world to not more than 1.5 Celsius of what the world was like at the beginning of industrialization, then we will be doing a lot of good. Of course, natural disasters will always be there. We as a people and as a country are expected to provide, to predict and be ready with the resilience. Of course, last year we failed the 600 people who died and many of us whose lives were dislocated fundamentally because some of the things that we could have done were not done. The Lagdo Dam in Cameroon was as a result of an agreement with us to build the Dan Hausa Dam on our own side of the territory, which was to be like 3 times of the Lagdo Dam, and money was voted for it, but it all disappeared the way we do our business in Nigeria, and no dam has been built. Yes, the problem we had, the water would have gone into the dam. It wouldn't have devastated us down the line, but not only being able to provide infrastructure, we are also to be looking at what can we do to reduce the impact of global warming and in effect, so the focus is larger than the focus that we have been debating.
Okay.
Of course, we have been debating the question of how many people went to Dubai. And I think that's an important question to also handle and deal with. Yes, there might have been some exaggeration in terms of what was being focused on by Nigerians, but I think it's one that we should be frank with ourselves and learn from, because at the end of the day, I hope that investigative journalists will have the opportunity to visit the website of the UNFCCC at the end of the conference and do an analysis on who ended up going. The federal government finally told us that it sponsored 422 people. Of course, to do what? That
Okay.
it sponsored 422.
You know,
it's even
sorry,
sacrilegious.
sir. We can come back to this point, but because of all that, what you've just said, I wanted to take you back to the beginning where I asked how much of a diplomatic effort as opposed to an environmental effort was it. And my mind here was on the fact that, look, the Western world, the highly industrialized countries of the world, their footprint, their carbon footprint is infinitely larger than us. And arguably, they hold much more of the blame for the situation that Earth finds itself in. Now, there are those who have been talking about, isn't Africa, you know, Nigeria included, aren't we in a position to be compensated if we were to talk about these things diplomatically? Because their advancement has been at the cost of, you know, stability and security of the planet on our side here. I don't know, what do you think of that particular viewpoint? Because
okay,
sure.
Okay, there's no problem. I'm going to definitely get to that because it's important and it's something that is constantly being negotiated. It's not totally decided, but we should address ourselves to the efficiency of our representation when we send people out.
All right.
And how many. COP27, the Conference of Parties last year, had about 169 Nigerians, 130 male, 39 female. And we were able to negotiate within all that the issue with other people, the question of loss and damage, which is one of the things that are now coming in as probable benefits to address what you are talking about. So what did we need federally funded 422 people for? That's a point that you should have at the back of your mind. And then the 422 federally funded people, you're talking about presidency, Ministry of Environment and co and all the rest of it. You are not talking about the state governments who found their way into the need to be in Dubai and what they were also. I'm not saying it is wrong for them to be in Dubai because they also have diplomatic and other interests that they can. And some of them will tell you we are looking for investors. Okay. Then there are the parastatals. All those, when you put all that together, the three that I've mentioned so far are still largely money of the federal government of Nigeria. So the smarties of trying to say 422, we should get that very clear that we should learn to be efficient in our representation. And I want to tell you also, I know that an important Nigerian invited by the IAEA could not find a seat in the Ministry of Environment. Our former Director General of the Energy Commission of Nigeria, former Vice Chancellor in two places, first-class engineer, now chairman of the renewable energy process. Several things, but he was not given a place. Now, but then we have so many, 67 from the presidency. We should learn. It's an important issue, but we should learn from it and not just push it aside. Now, on your particular question, I had mentioned the fact that the rest of the world, Africa inclusive, and in fact, the smaller countries like Barbados with Madam Motley, who has been becoming more or less the spokesperson for the developing countries, there was an understanding that 100 billion would be used annually to address the problem that you are talking about, that is providing for countries that didn't cause the problem that we have today, countries that are not even producing anything near what countries like United States and the rest of Europe, as well as China, India to some extent, are throwing into the global warming and are developing, but wanting to reduce the rate of development because we need energy. We need a mixture of energy to be able to move forward. So all these are being negotiated. A mechanism, the Warsaw mechanism was set up to try to look at the raising of some of these funding and how to, but the developed countries are not coming on strongly. This was a major issue at the COP26 in Glasgow, and it still continued in COP27, and negotiations are continuing on how to improve on this money that is to help the transition that the developing countries of Africa, Nigeria, and Asia will be faced. Because important Nigeria in particular is that we are finding out from scientists that fossil fuels are the major problem in global warming. And fossil fuels, you're talking about coal, you're talking about oil, the mainstay of our economy, and you're talking about gas. And so the developed countries are talking about phasing out this. Of course, the rate at which each one constitutes a problem differ. It's not that everything is the same. Coal has been pushed aside for a while by a number of countries, but you saw, and that's the question of interest, you saw that Germany and co, when they had the problem of energy as a result of the Ukraine war and as a result of the sabotage of Nord Stream 1 and 2, which made it impossible even for Russia to supply their needs in gas, they went back to their coal that they had said that they weren't going to be touching again, and said it's just for a temporary, and everybody kept quiet. If it had been in any of the developing countries, it would be all hell would be let loose. Yeah. But that's a question of the amount of power you have to be able to have your way. If you have all the power in the world and you can dictate to other people, well, that's it. But we need to be prepared for the fact that they are saying that we have to phase out the use of oil and gas, but we are insisting and arguing for a phasing down as opposed to a phase out. Because if we have to phase out automatically by now, it's a question of what capacities do we have in the energy mix that has been agreed upon since 1976, that it's a mixture that is required, fossil fuels, solar, other renewable energy plants, hydro, wind, all these, yes. Nuclear, some people are also insisting.
But, one moment, sir.
Debates.
One yes. moment, Prof. Wasn't it in this regard, because it was reported by the Minister of Information that the President Tinubu, hosted a high-level meeting with stakeholders on the, and investors on Nigeria's carbon market and the electric buses rollout, that kind of thing, buttressing what you've just said about, maybe just a phasing down as opposed to a phasing out, because we simply don't have that capacity. I don't know. And then so many deals were reported to have been, well, not so many, but at least an important one between Germany and Nigeria, among other things. I'm looking here at the Nigeria Carbon Market Activation Plan, co-chaired by the Executive Chairman of the Federal Inland Revenue Service and the Director General. Yes, and the Director General of the National Council on Climate Change, Dr. Dahiru Salisu. Surely these were moves in the in the right direction.
Oh, don't get me wrong. By saying that we were not efficient in our representation, it's not that I'm saying that it was not worth our going.
Okay.
So we must be clear on that. There is no doubt that a number of things are being achieved, because the process is still going on till December 12th,
That's right.
being achieved, and your flyer says postmortem. We can only do postmortem at the end of it all as to what carried, what didn't carry, how did we perform, and all the rest of it. Today, many possibilities exist if you are really want to run a lean government. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying that nothing was achieved. You cannot be asking people to tighten their belt, and then you took 422 people, and state governments took their own, parastatals took their own, all on the money, and then you say that we should tighten. That's all I'm still saying. I have no problem about the things that you have pointed out. I noted the fact that the president pointed out about these 100 buses.
Yes.
I believe a donation that came from these fossil fuel people as he came into office. I also note the fact that there is a lot of effort that is going towards compressed natural gas that is being put in place. Yes, you spoke about Germany and Nigeria. This is something that started under Buhari. If not mistaken, the deal was probably one of the problems that Nigeria, in terms of our profligate traveling, could not allow the Nigerian ambassador in Germany to sign the agreement. Late Abba Kyari had to go with the minister, So I'm saying that there is a continuous effort that has been going on how to address this problem, how to deal with our own national determined contributions, NDC. That is our document that is showing what we are doing, what we can do to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, the carbon dioxide, and some of the creative ways that people have come up with is, if you can keep your forests, they will be able to take in more of the carbon dioxide in the environment.
Yes.
And we will have a lesser situation of warming. That is the carbon market you are talking about. That but the reality of it is we need to develop, and the pressure to advance and be in a position to have the needed infrastructure in terms of road connections and all the rest of it that are still there would decimate some of these areas that are existing. But you find out that a trend seems to also be starting that we need to be aware and awake and be worried about, and that is the fact that some other countries are coming to buy on lease huge portions of Africa for their own carbon emission plans later in the future. One that is going on, a lot is being said, is that what UAE has bought a fifth of the land on lease, land in Zimbabwe, 10% of the forest in Liberia, a number, and all those places put together, they're saying larger than United Kingdom. And of course, they are trying to now quantify the carbon reduction that will be taking place, the import of biodiversity. It's difficult to explain many of these things in 1 hour,
yes.
but I'm trying because I'm seeing that there is a problem in our country. We submit nationally determined contributions, but most of our people don't know anything about what is going on. Even let me tell you, it's not a secret. During the last election, none of the three candidates knew anything about all these problems. The president now does, after being in office. Obi was dismissive of the whole talk, in spite of his supposed sagacity. Don't even talk about our former vice president. But both candidates, Jagaban and Obi, were governors. To what extent have their states been conscious? Sanwo-Olu, I understand, went to Dubai for this current one. I hope that he will come back, and with my own governor, Abiodun, I hope they will come back and they will be thinking of what is to be their own contributions in letting people know about the need for them to reduce carbon emissions and what projects and plans that they can key into. A lot of money stands to be made.
Okay, sir.
I mentioned
I beg your pardon, Prof.
Yes.
Professor, I beg your pardon.
Yes.
At this stage, I've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Please stay with us.
Sometimes it's the story that calls. At other times, the people just want to be heard.
School, I need students, but I need teacher.
Can't continue like this.
Their voices re-echoing through time itself.
We haven't done anything.
If the tide is high, everybody run for safety.
Their tears leave a sweet, sour taste for all their demands. A familiar call beckoning for change. In our world, no one expects a disaster to happen. But when it does, we'll be there to x-ray all sides, from the east to the west, north and south. Community Forum will examine the oddities and challenges to economic development, as well as issues yearning for government intervention. Watch fresh episodes of Community Forum on Sundays by 9:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
Okay, welcome back, and we're having a conversation with Professor Babafemi Badejo, legal practitioner and professor of political science and international relations at Christian University. He's a diplomat, former deputy special representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Somalia, and we've been looking at COP 28, and this is the 20th edition, and Prof has covered a number of fields, majorly looking at the efficiency of the delegation that we have sent. But then the Prof has also pointed out that, look, it's still an ongoing conference, and so there's still room for a lot more work. But I wanted to come back to Professor, according to the statement, and indeed Nigerians will know, according to the statement released by the Minister of Information, President Asiwaju has been unequivocal about the leading role that Africa must take. And in particular, he's been, quote unquote, uncompromising on the fact that, look, you can't tell us to reduce our carbon footprint, especially in the light of how valuable our extractive industries are, without the West providing funding and the building of alternative structures for the green energy, for the clean energy that you were talking about. Now, this, of course, is going to have to be a negotiation thing. And this is what your prof was talking about earlier. But the president has been sort of insistent on that look, we have just set up all sorts of ministries for extractive industries and all of that. So that won't be allowed to be scattered by the needs of, engagements such as this.
Yes. As I was pointing out, the international situation out there, the way it has been fashioned at the end of the Second World War, is a question of power. They will try to tell us that it is based on rules-based world order. No, it isn't. It is the question of how much power you have. Because the first attempt to try to implement what was agreed upon in Rio 1992 saw the Kyoto Protocol. The Kyoto Protocol 1997, which started setting into place how we set about going about reducing global warming. And Bill Clinton was very, very strong in the whole negotiation. And he went back to his country. The Senate refused to ratify the agreement. And that was more or less the death knell of the Kyoto Protocol. It dragged on and on and on until we had the Paris Agreement in December 2015. And the Paris Agreement was now progressive over what was achieved. As a result of the pressures from many of the developing countries, finally there was some accord. That's where this issue of being able to compensate the countries that did not cause the problem. But what happened when Trump came to power? Trump withdrew America out of it. Biden brought it back, and you have somebody strong leading the American delegation, John Kerry, the former Secretary of State of the United States. But how do we know who wins in November next year and what America's position will be again? So the powerful countries normally, and that's why it's important for you to come together, to work as Africans, to build a viable continental alternative. And we've not been able to do that. Nobody can push China around today because the Chinese went home under Deng Xiaoping after Mao Zedong, and they built a formidable country that today you cannot just say you want to push them anyhow. They determine what and what. So for us, many of these things are linked together. Yes, the president said very clearly that what is being said and what's now largely agreed, that you cannot just dictate a phase out. I think probably by next year or thereabout, if not already, all the cars in Norway will be electric. And all that is to reduce the gas that the carbon dioxide that cars are using and polluting. But should we say that should be the case for Nigeria by 2025? No, it's not going to work.
Because here we are building reportedly the largest refinery in Africa. It is yet to take off, but it is still there. At this, you would think that kind of a thing would begin to be old-fashioned, but not really so for our situation in Africa.
Well, you have touched on a very important issue. I don't think that, and that's why we are talking about face down as opposed to face out. In which case, there is reasonable transition between what we are doing now, but it's not for us to indicate that we will do nothing. It is for us to look at what can we do to reduce overall, not just oil and gas alone, but I'm not sure, because those who are scientists in that area can be helpful, but I don't think we are talking about a decade or maybe even 2 decades to say that we will no longer touch petrol for cars and everything and all the rest of it. So Dangote will still be able to sell his petrol in a number of countries in Africa, in Asia, Latin America, even if the other countries have gone by way of electric. And when you're still using gas and oil to make that electricity, you're still putting emissions into the air. So all these, well, yes, all this must be considered, all this must be discussed, and that calls for a very, very viable national discussion that is not limited to those who are in the ministries and departments or parastatals of government, but also civil society, Nigerians being aware of what these problems are and what can be done to ameliorate them.
Okay, Prof. Sorry, Prof. I beg your pardon for interrupting you. Let me bring in Mohammed. Mohammed has reached us on the line from Abuja. Good morning, Mr. Mohammed.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori. How are you? And I greet you, guest.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, COP28 definitely is not something to worry about. But the issue of this fuel subsidy removal and the hardship that is bedeviling Nigerians, that is why everybody is now putting eyes on anything. Even the budget, you can see how people are criticizing budget, whatever, this one, President Kaza, Chief of Staff House Kaza, all those things is because of the issue of this fuel subsidy issue. That's what causes all the problem. And the fuel they are importing is low quality. You put 5,000 fuel, it will not take you 1 day or 2 days. You put 10,000 naira fuel, it will not take you 2 days. So that is the problem. Our plea to the federal government, let the president speak. Please, let him talk. The fuel they are importing, whether NNPC or marketers, they are not bringing quality fuel. Please, let's buy the fuel that is value to our money. Please, that is our plea to Allah. We voted for this government, we campaigned for this government, and we need the president to talk the way he started from the beginning. Let him talk. Even this delegation, let him talk. Let him warn the ministries. Let him warn everybody that is involved. Please. We don't need this. People are suffering seriously, but Uncle Larry, I can't lie to you. I've been in Abuja for 25 years. I know what I'm saying. Please.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed. Thank you for calling in, Mr. Mohammed. But I suppose you are bringing up another subject matter, because as you will know, the COP28 conference that is ongoing, it's about reducing the carbon footprint, and as the professor who is our guest has been explaining, it's going to be a compromise and a trade-off. I don't know that the matter you introduced, which is the removal of fuel subsidy, I don't know how much it plays. Prof, you are there. I don't know how much it plays into all of this.
I don't know. Okay, those who have the relative expertise can calculate because, okay, fuel subsidy removal has resulted in the price of fuel going from 187, 200 thereabout, to now 580 to about 650, if not 700. That may have a link to consumption, because people are no longer, people are parking their cars and are taking public transport, even though it's very inconvenient. That is reducing gas emission. It may not even be the intention of Mr. President, but it may have some trickle effect on the same problem. Of course, the other issue that he raised is equally very, very important. Quality of what we are importing. The mechanic just left me a while ago because my car started showing check engine and I was scared. And he came and he said, what he sees is the fact that the fuel we are importing, I need to be, each time I buy fuel, buy a fuel injector cleaner because low quality fuel is what they are importing, and it is only NNPC that is able to import up to now. In other countries, there are different grades and of course, at the end of the day, these are all important issues that every individual needs to know what are the contributions of each one of us to this problem. What are the contributions by the time you are using your AC? What is the greenhouse gas emissions that is doing? Other major implements, refrigerators, and all the rest of it. To what extent are they efficient in reducing the overall impact?
It also comes back, Professor, it also comes back to how much, and I think you referred to this in passing, how much we, the ordinary citizens, really know about this matter. That's another aspect to it. But in the meantime, Mr. Ajayi has called in from K2. Good morning, Mr. Ajayi.
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah, my contribution is people just kept on complaining that the contingent to that conference was just too high. They don't realize. They fail to realize the fact that not only one item is going to be considered, and no one group will be expert in all the things that are going to be taught. Look at now, Nigeria has exited the conference. The conference is still on. If they were to continue with that conference, I tell you today they would have needed some other people to continue with issues, relevant issues that would be continuously be discussed. Those experts are not in one ministry. You can't find them in Ministry of Environment alone, or Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of Computer Science, or Ministry of Blue Chip, or whatever. They have to come from various angles. We have never been to this subject with this large number. They only planned for them to be there till yesterday when the president exited the place. And the conference is still on.
Okay. All right, Mr. Ajayi. Thank you for calling in, Mr. Ajayi. I appreciate your call. We'll let the professor explain that because a number of other presidents have also left the continuation in the hands of their very senior officials, and experts. But Professor, would you like to comment on Mr. Ajayi's observation?
Well, Mr. Ajayi should be explained to that Nigeria did not exit the conference. If anything, we do have a whole embassy in UAE that will be remaining there, but I'm actually certain that it's more than that. The president left, and several presidents have come and gone. Kamala Harris came as part of the U.S. delegation led by the special envoy of the president on climate. She spent December 1 to 2. The whole thing started on November 30. A friend of mine, the president of East Timor, he left, December 3rd, he left and put in place, his delegation is very small, being a small country. He left the place in charge of Professor Adão Soares Barbosa, who was a lead person and knowledgeable on these problems. There are people who have spent their lives following these issues. They are still there for Nigeria.
Okay.
And they will still continue their negotiations and will be briefing Mr. President on what is happening. And it is assumed that he will be giving guidance. It's not like in the 20th century, early 20th century, when you will have to send a message with the ambassador, and the ambassador will enter into Elder Dempster and start coming to Lagos to deliver the message.
Exactly. So Nigeria did not exit COP28. Mr. Benga in Abuja, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Diori. Good morning to Professor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good morning.
COP28. It gladdens my heart when I heard about the deal that was signed that a company with another in Netherlands is already in partnership with a company in Nigeria to establish a solar panel factory in Nigeria. That will go a long way in reducing the cost of renewable energy projects in Nigeria and also create jobs. But more importantly, I'm looking forward to establishment of a company that will establish manufacturing battery, lead-acid gel battery in Nigeria. Because these are the things that made the cost of solar energy projects, renewable energy projects, very, very expensive in Nigeria. An average battery in Nigeria now costs about 220,000 naira, while a solar panel about 300 watts costs about 90 to 100 naira, 1,000 naira. If you look at this, it makes it a no-go area for a common man. But if you can have a manufacturing company in Nigeria and we give you some relief and something, they're able to produce at a very affordable price. Many people will switch to solar and renewable energy. Like now, the whole of Sambisa forest, if you can convert it to a solar energy farm, it will power the whole of Northeast. So these are the things that we need to do, because the high cost of renewable energy, like battery, solar, and the rest, they really not allow Nigeria to go into that area.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that should be one of the things they discuss there, how to subsidize or how to bring all these parties come to Nigeria. Because population is there, the market is there in Nigeria. I'm a professional, that's my field. Where the high cost of those material, battery and solar panel, those two items are really scared from people from going to renewable energy, solar.
Thank you very much for calling in, Benga from Abuja. We have just a few minutes left. Prof, that contribution, your comments on that, because that would be the ideal case scenario.
It's a good contribution. Daily, we are engaging all over the world, and part of the whole negotiation is that technology to help the transition should be freely transferred. Of course, you know that the West will not freely transfer anything. It is what the West can get out of it. But definitely, if you can bring down the costs that that's involved with respect to solar, we have sun. The advantage we have is the fact that we have the sun throughout the year. We're not like some countries that have sun for a few periods within the year, and everything is dark and they are managing and continuing with their lives. But we have the advantage, and there is the Sahara Desert that is encroaching on us, and we're able to use some of that as we are trying to build the African green belt zone. We are also able to use some of that to advantage by providing thousands of megawatts of solar capacity. There are several other things that are also going. If we can just reverse the trend towards corruption in this country, we will go places.
Indeed.
But the problem is the elephant in the room, corruption, which we need to persuade Mr. President to see as a major problem facing us.
Indeed. And then very briefly, Prof, the point you made about the loss and damages fund, I mean, how, we don't have all the time to deal with it, but how large a fund is it? I'm hearing about hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not even in the billions. Is that significant?
The money is supposed to be in billions. Because last year, I told you about the flooding that came from the environment and the opening of the Lagdo Dam, and they had to open it because of flooding that they also faced, and the fact that we didn't have the Danhausa Dam that would have retained some of the water, and everything came down and affected, I don't know whether 32 of the 36 states, and 600 people died. We would have been able to quantify this if the money were there as the impact of what others have done in the past.
Indeed.
In terms of degrading the environment by way of global warming that is resulting in some of these phenomenal changes. This year now, Somalia has been in several problems on that respect, but they have not been able to raise good money yet. There are discussions going in place as to whether if you take 1% tax of this or that per person, per country, whatever, it will lead to billions. Countries like UAE are promising to put me, but I think that all
we've run out of time.
$700 million.
Exactly. That's the figure that I was hearing. Thank you very much, Professor Badejo. We've run out of time, unfortunately. And as you observed at the top of the program, you were doubtful that can we do justice to such a wide-ranging topic as this in the 1 hour. But I dare say, sir, that you've done a marvelous job of informing better many people that are not experts and might not have known very much about this. And so our appreciation goes to you, Professor Babafemi Badejo, legal practitioner and professor of political science and international relations at Christland University. Once more, our regards to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Yori.
Thank you,
I am very, very much appreciative.
Thank you, sir. So that's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.
Following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. Do you struggle with having an active and healthy lifestyle due to your busy schedule? Do you find it difficult to make it to the gym? You want to improve your overall health, but don't know where and how to start? Medical